He literally took his ball and went home. We talk about we talk about guys taking their ball and going home. He took his ball and he went home.
Fore-play presented by Barstool Sports. We've got a couple of the boys on vacation still. So you got myself and Dan, which is usually a golf-heavy show. We got some golf to talk about, which is very exciting. It's early in Dan's neck of the woods. We got a couple Barstool Classics, so I'm in Boston for the week. But I'm just scrolling through Twitter. One of my favorite events of the year might be the Matt Kuchar decision to just finish on Monday in one of the most illogical and kind of dickhead moves in history. I mean, really, there's no, I was obsessed with this last night as this was kind of occurring, and I was trying to piece it together. Like, there's got to be an actual legitimate reason that one could be like, okay, I kind of get why he did that. There doesn't appear to be one at all. And part of me too, I very much envy Matt Kuchar's total detachment, I think, from how people are talking about him. Like, obviously with the El Chapo, I think that was his caddy's name, who he didn't pay or paid $5,000 when he won a couple $1 million. I don't think he was even aware really that people were talking shit about him or cared. And then this one is another one where I can't handle secondhand embarrassment in life. I hate it. And I think he's just impervious to all of it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, I don't know if you saw, but late last night he did an interview with Todd Lewis where he, I guess, explained his decision. And he said that he actually wanted to set a good example for Max Greyserman, which I don't know if that is true, or I don't know if that is just some of the worst pivoting attempted spin zone that I've heard. He said that, we shouldn't have been playing that long, which, okay, that's I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I wasn't on the ground. It looked to be rather hot. They played a lot. Actually, I think it was the first time in PGA Tour history. Yesterday, they finished the second round, third round, and fourth round at the Wyndham. There were still people playing the second round in the first thing in the morning on Sunday. So they're playing a lot of golf. I'm not disputing that. That's outrageous. I'm not disputing that. Right? Two things can be true at once. You could have maybe shouldn't have been out there, whatever should means. It doesn't give you the excuse to be the one guy who literally took his ball and went home. We talk about guys taking their ball and going home. He took his ball and he went home. And every other person finished the round. And I think you're 100% right. I think he thought this was going to go the other way. I think he thought that people would be like, oh yeah, I'm the guy who's standing up for the integrity of the competition. I'm the guy who's elder statesman trying to set a good example for young Max Greyserman here. It backfired in him. Did you see today? He made par. He made a good par. He got up and down for he hit it to 2 feet.
I saw that he made the par, and I think you're right. I think his headspace when it comes to these types of narratives in the public golf conversation, he's just on the total other side of it. And I do think that part of him thought coming down 18, I can sense that these other guys are just hoping that more of a veteran figure will step up and say, this is just too much, guys. We can't do this. And he pulled that move, and then everyone else around him was like, well, we're fucking finishing. What are you doing, you psychopath? And then for him to for him to do it at that moment is what is so, if it was on the 17th tee, I really don't think many people would have bitched about it. Been like, all right, they're out there all day. You just can't quite get another 30 minutes of professional golf in. They ran out of daylight. You've done the thing now. You've made it to the point of, and we've all played twilight golf where it's like there's a cutting off point when you play twilight golf where you're like, all right, if we get to this hole, I don't care if it's pitch black and you can't see a thing. We're swinging on, let's call it 17T, and we're going to swing. Everybody's going to be really quiet. We're going to try to listen for where the ball lands so that we can go up there and find it. Matt Kuchar, in terms of the professional golf version of that, he got past that point. He got to the point where he teed off on 18. You tee off on the 72nd hole, and the entire operation, which it's a ridiculous operation to put on a PGA Tour event, from security, staffers, volunteers, everything. Put on a PGA Tour event, you're making dozens of people at minimum have to come back the next day, when instead, that night, they'd all be out celebrating the week's over. They did it. What a great effort. They persevered through this fucking hurricane. And they were able to get the scheduling down, right? Where, it was a grind on Sunday, but they finished. And instead, everyone's like, what do you mean we have to come back in the morning so that Matt Kuchar can go to the driving range, come out, and then hit an approach shot and maybe a couple putts or whatever he ended up doing? And Yeah, it was again, it was a ridiculous move, but it was one where even just walking around this morning thinking about it, I was like, I would kind of love, like, I'm almost, my goal is to live in that headspace where he could not possibly care less what the conversation is about him. He's like, nope, fuck no, I'm gonna finish tomorrow.
Well, not even the conversation. That's like the cool, like admirable part of his headspace. But he also doesn't give a fuck about the dozens of people that have to come back in the morning because
Yeah.
it, like, I saw some people. I made a video about this, and so there were some comments being like, "Oh, well, it's like worth $100,000." Well, it's actually not, because it's not about just the total number of prizes; it's the difference that he would make with one shot. And also, you have to contextualize that $8,000 for Matt Kuchar is not the same thing as $8,000 for you at home, right? Like, this guy has made $70 million on the PGA Tour or whatever it's been. And I understand that, like, you don't want to count other people's money. That's a different conversation. But it was not like a consequential time. It wasn't like he was third place in the tournament, right? If you're like in solo second and you know, you want to protect, that could be $150,000, $160,000.
Right.
This was going to be something more like 8 or 10, if that. So that was kind of the bad part of it. But yeah, he clearly, you know, it's a tough one because I'm sure you're the same when you have this job for a while. You come across a lot of tour pros. You know, a lot of people have questions. The number one question I get the most is like, who's your least favorite guy on the PGA Tour? That's like, I'm sure you get that a lot. Who's the biggest asshole? Matt Kuchar is not someone that would come into my mind at all, like at all. And there's this difference, and it almost reminds me of Patrick Reed in a way, where you guys have had good experiences with Patrick Reed. Patrick
Great
Reed,
one.
to my face at least, has never been anything but a lovely guy. Like, really nice.
Mhm.
Actually, one of the nicer ones in the sense of like pretty friendly. I think if you played a practice round or a pro-am with Patrick Reed, you'd be like, that guy's great. And if you played a practice round with Matt Kuchar, I think you'd say the same thing. I think you'd be like, this guy is awesome. And so I kind of have this weird thing now where it's like, do you judge a person based on, I mean, we're getting a little meta here and a little you know, psychological.
It's okay.
Do you base
It's okay,
a person based on your interactions with them, or do you base your interpretation on someone about how the internet or how, you know, something perceives something that's happening in the public eye?
I think that at our core, I think that somehow the internet has driven everyone to believe that it's a binary thing, and it's just not. And I think that people see one story about Matt Kuchar didn't tip his local caddy enough, and then they see another story that's like Matt Kuchar didn't finish on the 70, and they're like, bad guy. When in reality, it's like, I actually don't know that I've met that many humans in my life who I'd be like, they're actually, that's a bad person. Like, that doesn't, most people are pretty good people who like care about their family and friends. They're a little bit, to whatever percentage of themselves, selfish, which is understandable. Most of us are. You're trying to like selfishly build your own life and comfort so that then you can spend more of that time surrounded by said family and friends. And almost everyone that you encounter on a day-to-day basis is not like a shitty, bad person. And even like, you can look at like a lot of criminals and stuff, when you look at circumstantially as a sociology major, you look at it of like, they're actually just, a lot of cases felt like what they were doing was like the only thing that they knew or could possibly do to try to provide and survive throughout their life and provide for the people that they actually cared about. It's like, if you care about the people that you grew up loving and are family and friends with more than you care about strangers, does that make you a bad person? No, I think almost everybody feels that way. So it's like, it does get into a very meta conversation. And I think that Matt Kuchar's a great example of that, where it's like, there are some narratives out there of like, Kuch, everybody, he seemed like a fan favorite forever. He's got like, there's some people who have a resting bitch face. He's just got like a resting smiling face. Like, he comes off the, you know, any given hole where he might make a bogey or an eagle, and he's still, when he does his hat tip, he's got that kind of like lovable, big bald forehead and big smile, and it's all shucks Matt Kuchar. And I think that was his image forever. And then it kind of like, in one instance, it's like he didn't pay this local guy. He paid him $5,000 when he should have paid him whatever it is, like $100,000. And everyone, then not everyone, but a lot of people then kind of changed the narrative to like horrific guy, where it's like, well, I mean, he might have just made a mistake. And I think, you know, I try to judge a lot of it too by the other players' sort of relationship to them. And it feels like the other players love Kuchar. Like whenever he's been on the teams, right? He's like a locker room guy. He's one of the top ping pong guys. So he's like in the mix, competing with the other guys. He's got a lot of like inside jokes, I feel like, with the other guys that he plays practice rounds with and such. I thought that he handled the Jordan Spieth back nine incident at the 2007 Open Championship with all class. Like Spieth was over there for 40 minutes or whatever it was on that par four. Kuch at one point was literally on a knee in the middle of the fairway with like a towel underneath him, getting through it. Spieth came over to apologize to him, and he said afterwards with all of it, he's like, no, I mean, it was a bummer that it took that long, but like he wasn't trying to take that long. That's just how long it took to get that ruling. So I think he's handled a lot of stuff with class over the time. Regardless, this one was just not. I mean, that was the other part I wanted to say about when you were going. It's like, even if it is a however many $1,000 difference, it's not like the move that he made guaranteed that monetary difference. In fact, he went out and made par. It's like by all accounts, the 12-hour difference from going in last night to tonight changed zero about the outcome in terms of his position and finishing position of the tournament at all. So it's like he did all of that for almost like whatever the strokes gained by daylight, whatever that fucking stat might be, is probably minuscule at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. He had been playing. And so, he was he had to do a whole warm up. I had a few takeaways while he might, and this is like, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate to my nice guy. He might have a service person problem. Do you know what I mean? Where he's totally really super nice to, Jordan Spieth, and, he's super nice to us, but, maybe the caddy and sort of the people who are, maybe he just doesn't think of them as much as he should.
People don't, right. Like the waitresses and waiters at his local restaurants don't rave about him, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. There were a decent amount of people watching today. And I was wondering if those people had to be there or if it almost became, kind of like a where were you now moment. Because there was probably like 12 or 14 people who were watching and clapping for him in the stands as he putted out for par. I want to give a shout out to Kevin Price, our guy KP, who's just one of a kind in the golf world.
The GOAT.
Just an absolutely elite tweet this morning. He said, 51 years ago, Chichi Rodriguez won the Wyndham Championship in a Monday finish. Perhaps in homage, Matt Kuchar will do the same. Anyways, and also he set the example that he wanted to Max Greyserman. Like Max Greyserman saw it, and Max Greyserman just we lost Riggs. But what I was going to say is Max Greyserman saw it, so he made the example that he was trying to make. He fell on the sword, metaphorically for Max Greyserman, and Max Greyserman just saw it and continued to finish the golf tournament and finish solo second even after he made a disaster. So
this episode is brought to you by Chevy, our great friends at Chevrolet. Get the crew together, head to the course in the new 2024 Chevy Traverse. We love big vehicles. Obviously, we're out there with golfers. We're throwing stuff in there from golf clubs, shoes. You get all kinds of stuff that piles up, which is good. That means you've got cool golf stuff. So you need the space. We know that. We also need the technology. There's all kinds of good technology out there, all kinds of sweet cars. Everybody knows that. It's very fun to get in and have all the new gadgets. The Traverse is that. It's all the cargo room. It's all the iconicness of the bow tie and Chevy, plus the best-in-class technology. They've got the best-in-class 17.7-inch diagonal color touch screen among three-row SUVs. It's the best-in-class. AutoSense power liftgate. Traverse has elevated the tech game. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're fired up about. Find all the power that you're after in the next generation Traverse with an all-new 2.5-liter turbocharged engine, 328 max horsepower, 326 pound foot of torque, and up to 5,000 pounds of available maximum towing. So this thing, it's a machine. It's just an absolute machine with great technology with Chevy. So head over to Chevy.com/Traverse to build your own and learn more. Chevrolet, together, let's drive. And again, go to that link. Head over to Chevy.com/Traverse. Check it out. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
Kind of a shitty situation, or not shitty, but a little unfortunate that we're not talking about Aaron-Rai's first victory because he is such a nice guy. Like he is, ask anyone on the PGA Tour, he's just one of the nicest, most unassuming, sort of least country club vibe person that you could ever come across. Bush, you might want to pull this up. I think this might be a good audio clip, but the clip of him talking about, he gets a little, he wears 2 gloves, and he uses iron covers, which really obscures the fact that his golf swing is fantastic, and I really like watching him play. But anyways, he wears, and the reasons, I think he has some sort of circulation issue with his gloves, with his fingers rather. He's got some sort of condition where he doesn't get circulation to his toes and his hands. So he wears 2 gloves to keep his hands warm at all times. And then Bush, I'm not sure if you'll be able to pull this up, but the clip of him talking about why he still uses iron covers, talking about Aaron-Rai now, Riggs is back, is really like, it's kind of everything you want. He's a proper rags to riches golfer, where his dad had no money. He saved all this money for him to be able to get this new set of Titleist, whatever the blades at the time were, the MB, I don't know, some equipment that probably knows exactly which irons I'm talking about, but he had them, and he had no money for a replacement. So he treated those irons like they were a child, and he put iron covers over them, and he still keeps them to this day, as a reminder of kind of where he came from, and not to ever like lose touch with that. And so yeah, I just felt a little bit bad that sort of Greyserman's collapse. And then, by the way, back-to-back second place finishes for Max Greyserman, one of the very fellow Jews on the PGA Tour. So shout out to Max Greyserman. And even his collapse and sort of Matt Kuchar's shenanigans really overshadowed what was a pretty like heartwarming thing for a guy who I feel like a lot of people felt like was ready for a win. It was coming.
Yeah, he's been playing great, and I remember the old Chasing Greens couple episodes that myself and Kirk did. I think we really highlighted, if there was a guy that you looked at that was pretty good value, Aaron-Rai through a lot of this year was excellent value. And I do remember, I think it was like a year ago maybe, where the head covers or the iron head covers thing got put up as like, hey, this is the reason that he actually rocks those. And everyone was like, oh shit, we've been making fun of this guy for a couple 100%. Years. And it turns out like, that's awesome. That's fucking great. And so I like that. I agree. I thought it was very heartwarming. It is always tough in these events when, an event like the Wyndham Championship is always looking for something. It's looking for some kind of juice. It's like the last tournament of the year. Unless you're trying to keep your season going, like you're probably not in the field. Justin Thomas like famously played last year in an effort to like make the FedEx Cup and make the Ryder Cup. He almost chipped in the last hole to like get into the playoffs and all that. And unfortunately, like the juice that this event found this year was kind of the Matt Kuchar juice of like once every couple of years, we like to like shit on Matt Kuchar because something that's just a little dickish that he does. And that kind of overshadowed a little bit. But I agree. Very heartwarming story. Been playing red hot this year. And I think he's kind of a classic Wyndham Championship type winner, which I like to see.
I think Mr. Alex Bush, producer extraordinaire, has located the Aaron-Rai clip. So we're going to play that. And it's a good early week clip, This is a nice it's Monday morning, first thing in the morning here in California. It's Tuesday, probably wherever you're listening to this. But this is just a little bit of gratitude for your week.
I mean, I grew up in very much a working class family, and golf has always been a very expensive game. And I started from the age of 4 years old, and my dad used to pay for my equipment, pay for my membership, pay for my entry fees. And it wasn't money that we really had, to be honest. But he'd always buy me the best clubs. And I think when I was...
Interesting thing about membership, this is a thing in England. It's not the same like membership kind of situation that we have here. Like when people say that, it kind of sounds like, oh, his dad paid for him to like join a private club. Basically, these juniors pay these memberships and they're like super affordable, especially by American standards. Like memberships, I think, to these good clubs, even for like the best clubs, are, £1,000 a year maybe. So for a junior at not one of these, royal clubs, it's probably like a couple £100 a year. And then they can play unlimited. So it's basically like a membership is basically just you're buying in bulk. There's an interesting addendum.
And I think when I was about 7 or 8 years old, he brought me a set of Titleist 690 MBs. I'm not sure if you can remember those, but
yeah,
they were like £800, £1,000 back then, just for a set of clubs for a kid. And I cherished them. And when we used to go out and practice, he used to clean every single groove afterwards with a pin and baby oil. And then to protect the golf clubs, he thought it'd be good to put iron covers on it. And I've pretty much had iron covers on all of my sets ever since, just to kind of appreciate the value of what I have. And it all started with that first set of Titleist 690s. So although I'm on the PGA Tour, we get given equipment, we get given anything that we need, it's more out of principle, and it's more out of just the value of not losing perspective of what I have and where I am. So
Oh, man.
the covers are going to stay. I'm sorry. The covers are
I
going to
love
stay.
that.
Yeah, so it was nice to see him get a win. I think people were very. The overall takeaway was this guy deserves it. He's a good guy, playing great golf this year. I remember he was a very trendy pick going into, I think it was the Open. So it's been a good summer for Aaron-Rai. He's got a chance now. PGA Tour winner. He's going to be into everything next year. He's riding high in the FedEx Cup. Probably be in the Ryder Cup picture.
Yeah, Dan. All right, we're grinding through a little bit of Wi-Fi issues, but I think we're able to piece this thing together nicely. Aaron-Rai's story at the end of the day, like you said, probably not getting enough love. He's been made fun of a lot on the internet. Hopefully he's like a Matt-Kuchar-like figure and doesn't even really pay attention or care, because at the end of the day, humble beginnings, iron covers to protect it because he cherishes his club so much. He breaks through and gets the win. It's always a little bit weird when somebody wins because somebody else loses, but like, you still got to win. I mean, you just got to win. You got to play the best 72 holes anybody plays.
Yeah, and we see it every single week. Like it's like these guys, when they make the turn coming home on Sunday, and something changes inside them. Max Greyserman had one of the all-time roller coasters on the back nine. He made an eagle to go up by 4. And for a guy like Max Greyserman, like, he's got back-to-back second place finishes, so he's still like, he's going to keep his card, all this stuff. He's going to he's making the playoffs, but a win is still so important. For it just takes you to a new level in your career. He's 47th in the FedEx Cup right now. If he wins, he's probably pushing the top 30, right? And so that's a huge difference with getting. And then if you win, obviously, let's not forget, you get into the Masters tournament, which a guy like Max Greyserman, he's 29-year-old rookie, kind of been at it for a little while. It's just, winning is still extremely important, and so. The 8 he made was pretty difficult to watch, and then he birdied the next hole and came back. So he did a good job of hanging in there, but it's very almost impossible, dare I say, to make an 8 on the back nine and still win a golf tournament. Just not gonna happen.
It was it Tom Kim a couple years ago who made an 8 on the first hole of the tournament and then still won the thing?
That's right. Yes,
that was great. That was like Tom Kim's coming out party. But yeah, good for Aaron-Rai. Great story. We had this Graeme McDowell story is interesting. So he gets he's over on Liv. First of all, I even know they had a policy on Liv. I thought over on Liv,
that's the most stunning part of the whole thing.
By all accounts and rumor and hearsay, you could get away with whatever the fuck you want over there. Golf but louder. They got music. They're playing in shorts. If you want to roid up and hit the ball 9 million miles over on the liv-golf tour, I just assumed everybody was okay with that. So that was what was most stunning to me. And then, Graeme McDowell's had a couple quotes since he kind of went over to Liv. He's been kind of in the thick of it a few different times with things that he has said. And I love Graeme McDowell. I've played golf with him before. We played Tobacco Road in Sanford, North Carolina together. He's a great guy. He's got the Nona Blue restaurants, which I've been to a couple of those. He's a very nice guy and fun guy to hang out with. But then for him in his statement to throw shade at the other tours for how like he's accepting this suspension for doping on the liv-golf tour, and even though it's devastating for him, that it's still better than like the way that other tours handle their substance abuse situations, was really out of left field, to be honest with you.
Well, that's kind of one of the things with Liv is, like, apart from all of this conversation about the money and the guys going over there, it's like there's just a little bit of state-run media going on, and I think everyone sees that and they're like, what other sports league would be like where a guy gets suspended and say, thank you so much to the league for protecting everybody else. This is by far the best drug enforcement policy I've ever seen. And the transparency, I mean, they take these things really seriously. So he says they take it really seriously. And then he says he's suspended for one tournament. Like, imagine if a guy on the PGA Tour got busted for doping and they were like, you got one tournament. And then he was like, you know what an incredible policy that is. Thank you guys so much. So that's the part that, like, I think with Liv, it's just, you want a little bit more self-awareness, right? and just kind of understand that like people are going to, you can't just say everything is the greatest and the best and just tell people not to just like believe their eyes.
Right. And he kind of pulled the move where he's like, actually, this was a test. I was testing you guys, and you
Yes.
liv-golf like policy, substance abuse board, you guys passed. Like the way you handled this was excellent. I accept my suspension. I always appreciate that when they're like, I fully accept my. It's like, well, you can't just show up and play. Like if you don't accept it,
What are you
can't
going
be
to
like,
do?
Nope, I don't accept that. I'm going to show up and play. You're not George Costanza where you're just acting like you didn't get fired. So I thought the whole thing was a very, very funny statement. I laughed kind of throughout reading the entire thing. And my big takeaway, was that it was stunning that was even against the rules. I don't even know what are the official doping, like rules, even when it comes to the PGA Tour and the majors. I remember VJ Singh, he was doing like the deer antler spray thing like a decade ago where he got suspended for that. But I don't even know like what the rules really are.
Yeah, I think I know that like a lot of some sports like the track, that's all through WADA, which is a World Anti Doping Agency, I think, or something. But I think the leagues probably all have their own policy, would be my guess, because I don't think the PGA Tour tests for weed anymore. I don't think. But yeah, I don't know. With performance enhancing, it's a different. I think performance enhancing is like would seem to be a lot stricter than like a drug of abuse or a recreational drug. But I have no idea. I mean, the only drug guys will get busted. I think Ben On got busted for a while, a couple months ago. I remember Matt Every, but that was for pot back in the day. Yeah, I don't know. It's not really a sport that you would think that like being roided out would really help you very much. And also, it's also very funny that according to him, the thing that got him busted was Vicks nasal decongestant spray. So it's just a funny story all around.
I still think he's going to get a little slap on the ass and an attaboy from Greg Norman at some point.
Yeah,
the rest of the year. Like, oh, okay, nice work. I like that. So yeah, Graeme McDowell, I like him, and I thought that entire statement was very funny. Did you know that coming up here in August, I'm looking at August 20th, U.S. Open Mixed Madness at Arthur Ashe Stadium on Game Time. You can go there for $52. Grounds admission on the 26th of August, $182. U.S. Open's awesome. I went with Lurch a couple years ago. It's just an absolute blast going to Arthur Ashe. Insanely cool. Then all the little side courts that they have where you can just watch some of the best players in the world from very close. The whole point is going to events is really, really awesome and fun. It's what life's all about. Game Time is going to help you do it. I'm looking right here, too, for all you folks in the New York area. We got preseason Giants at Jets game. That is on the 24th of August, $26. So nobody does it better than Game Time. They are the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Finding tickets for less has never, ever been easier. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all of the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. It's a great app. It's very easy to use, and they've got the lowest price guarantee. That means if you can find the same seats for less anywhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time is the best place for last-minute seats with up to 60% off your favorite events. What are you waiting for? Go check out Game Time right now. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code FORE, F-O-R-E, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Shout out to Lydia Ko. Gets the win in the women's Olympic gold medal. Really, I mean, Rory McIlroy himself said about the men's game even last week that like the two greatest events that we have are kind of the Olympics and the Ryder Cup. If you want to look at the women's game, I mean, this and the U.S. Open, I would say, are pretty handedly above any other event, I feel like, in the women's game. And for Rory to say that about the men's game, it's like clearly, I think, in the women's game, about as big as it could get. And for Lydia Ko to get the gold, she had a little bit of a slump there for a few years and then came back. She's one of those too. That's in the women's game. It's so much different, but like she was winning when she was like 15 years old or something. She was like out on the LPGA tour winning. So she's been doing it forever, and she's not even 30 years old yet, I don't think. So it's like,
yeah, she's 27. She officially qualified for the Hall of Fame. I think she's probably the best candidate to pull a Byron Nelson and just be done well before they've reached that age. Byron Nelson famously retired at 34. He wanted to be a rancher. Obviously, it was a different time. The money wasn't the same, but he was kind of a country boy, and golf was kind of a job for him. I was doing some reading last night about Lydia Ko from the people who are more plugged into the LPGA than you or I, and they were. I think Beth Ann Nichols, who is kind of like on the beat, she's kind of she was saying that she wouldn't be surprised if Lydia didn't play another tournament. It seems like she is going to play the British Open and the Scottish Open, but just never really seemed like one of those people. Lexi is a good example. Never seemed like one of those people who really, when you're a good women's player or a great women's player at a young age, there's a certain like pressure, and we saw this a lot with Nelly earlier this year, where whether you like it or not, everyone is looking at you to be this sort of all powerful force that is going to single-handedly lift the game. And a lot of times they're a lot younger than the men are, just because of the way women develop. And Lydia Ko's the youngest ever major winner, youngest ever winner on the LPGA Tour. A 10-year career that starts when you're 15 or 16 is not the same as a 10-year career, I think, that starts when you're 23 and goes, or even 28, because it's just those first years are just, those are years that the human brain is not fully developed, right? Like you're not. It's against the laws of nature, I should say, for someone to be like that famous and have that much sort of pressure on them, And so I just think that she was always really kind and a gracious winner, but she's just not that kind of personality, like a Noah Lyles, who's like, I realize that I need to do something to bring, and that's what we've had this conversation with Nelly many times, that battle between, why is my golf not good enough, right? Like, why do I have to do all these things? And I think that Lydia Ko is probably, it's complete. Like you said, it's a massive title in the women's game. She's got it now. She's got multiple majors. If you're not going to break a record and you feel like you have all the money in the world, we don't like this from our athletes because we like to enjoy watching them play. But if one of your buddies or something was like, I've done everything I want in my career, I have fuck you money, I'm 28 years old and I'm kind of just done being in the public spotlight, you'd be like, that's a totally normal decision.
Hell yeah,
like, you've earned it.
I was just looking. Lorena Ochoa is one that I always remember.
Great.
And
so the women do this, I guess. Yeah,
she retired, dude. She was 28 years old, and it was May 2nd, 2010. She retired, and I remember that stretch, dude, from like 04, 05 through when she retired was like my like really getting into golf period. And I remember like throwing on Golf Channel, and it was just week after week with her. She was just dusting everybody. And then I remember like it's 2010, it's like she's just retiring. And so you're right, that does happen. And it's a wild expectation to expect like if you look at the age that like Scotty Scheffler is now relative to his career, that's like Lorena Ochoa or both of them, but like Lydia Ko was like 18 at the same point, right? Or like Scotty's 27, and like she's like 10 years younger when she was 2 or 3 years into her dominant stretch of her like beginning of her LPGA Tour career. And Scotty Scheffler, they're 10 years later, they're at the age almost that some of these young women are at when they retire. So
Scotty's 11 months, 10 months older than she is.
That's sad.
Which is insane, right?
Like we've talked about,
she's been doing it forever. And Scotty is sort of, I don't even want to say a late bloomer because he got his tour card at 23, 24, but he was not, when Lydia Ko was winning majors, Scotty wasn't even in college yet. And so Scotty's, it's been like 3 years. And I think even Scotty is sort of, this year is probably tired from all of the attention and all of, it really feels like he needs a rest. And I think that's probably how Lydia feels, just magnified when you don't, Scotty had a real proper childhood, right? Like he went to normal high school and he went to prom with Meredith, and he went to college, and I'm sure he had fun at Texas. And it wasn't probably until his junior or senior year where it was like, okay, I'm going to start acting like a pro. And then he had a year on the Corn Ferry Tour. Just all of these steps and all of these chances to sort of develop who you are as a person outside of the golf course, so that now when Scotty is up there, he's saying it's not, golf is a part of me. It's not. And I think part of that is because he had a balanced and a grounded upbringing that it's just impossible to have if you're one of the best players in the world at the age of 16.
It is funny to think about, dude. Like when Patrick Reed was winning the 2018 Masters, like Scotty Scheffler was just still in college. Like that's
Wasn't even a thought.
That's a couple years into like our foreplay history. Like we were already doing this, and Scotty just wasn't even. You're right, like playing professional golf. He was just Scotty Scheffler. He's at Texas. He's having a collegiate career. So it is a wildly, wildly different timeline. And right, like imagine how exhausted Scotty's going to be 10 years from now of dealing with all this bullshit and like being Scotty and getting arrested. And then you've got. So yeah, it's wildly different, but that was cool. I think too. Like I know she's really tight with like Danielle Kang. I've noticed has always been sort of like posted stuff with the two of them at different events. And I think they teamed up for some of it. Danielle Kang's one of the original kind of LPGA players that we had on our show. So I've always kind of seen that relationship, and just Lydia Ko, quiet, but always very, very dominant. And for her to get that kind of win, you could see how emotional it was, how much it went. So, or how much it meant. So I thought that was very, very cool to see. So congrats to her. A little bit off topic. You see Tom Cruise close out the Olympics?
Yeah. It's LA, baby.
That's LA. That is LA. Tom Cruise, man, what an interesting cat Tom Cruise is. Like I feel like he really is a one of the last like
he's the only one
stars. You know what I mean?
He's the only one.
I mean, I think Leo. Like I still think Leo. If a movie opens, it's like a Leonardo DiCaprio movie. I think it's like almost must see no matter what the subject matter is. And I think Tom Cruise, but he's that way. And so that was a great move. I'll say like that perked my ears up a little bit. I said, now what's going on? I was looking on like the TV screen on this guy's on the flight next to me, and I'm seeing Tom Cruise is on the top of the stadium. And I was like, now what's going on here with Tom Cruise?
The amount of money that he brings in, I think like if you look at it by like a average, like a earnings per movie type of metric, I think he's, and it's because in my world at least, the narrative on Tom Cruise is kind of a weird guy, right? I mean, I watched the Scientology documentary, like there's a lot going on there.
A bit of a wacko.
But obviously, yeah, a bit of a wacko. He's got the weird, the Katie Holmes thing was kind of bizarre. Is he just, most people just don't know, or they don't care? Or it's just like, he's Tom Cruise. Maybe he's weird, but I'm just going to go see the movie anyway. Because you're right, he is by far, I think, from a dollars and cents perspective, he is the most box office person in the world.
Yeah, he's box office. He's just pure box office. That's what he is. And that's why, when I saw he was kind of the guy to close out the Olympics and bring the torch from Paris to LA, it did cross my mind too of like, is he sort of like not in that circles? Like, is he, if you're a little woke-ish, like, can you not necessarily have Tom Cruise? And then I was like, dude, I don't know. Tom Cruise is Mr. Ass in the seats. When he puts out a movie, it's like must see. It takes over the box office. The clips are all over the place. And then, if we're comparing it, we're just talking about like careers and how hard it is to like really be high pressure, top of the game for a decade. The guy's 62 years old. Mr. Cruise has been doing it forever, and he's still doing it to the top of his ability. He's hanging on the side of fucking airplanes. He's doing like, what did he do? I remember this last holiday season, I think he released like a Merry Christmas video or something, like hanging out the edge of an airplane and then jumped out of it. And he's like, and then he had last year with the motorcycle stunts where he was riding motorcycles off that huge ramp on the cliff for like multiple takes a day because he refuses to like uses the most minimal amount of like stunt doubles as possible. And he's just 62 years old, still doing it. So buddy, when I saw Tom Cruise out there, I was happy. I was like, that is a good sign for longevity right there, that Tom Cruise is still doing it, dude.
If you think we had to put together like a capsule for aliens or like a little 2-minute video, we've talked about this before, to kind of tell them what we're about, would you tap in Tom Cruise or Leo to be kind of the front man?
I think you got to tap in Tom Cruise. I think Leo, I think Leo is a little bit more on the artsy side of like this, the top tier movie star, where I think Tom Cruise is pure beach volleyball, fucking aviators, like Top Gun, Mission Impossible. He's you know what I mean? He's just bangers only. Whereas I think Leo's willing to go get fucked by a bear to try to win like an Oscar. That's what he's doing. Whereas I think
Tom Cruise is not doing that.
Tom Cruise is like, I'm jumping out of airplanes, dude. You go have fun in the woods there for a couple of years and maybe you'll get your award. But like, he's just a box office kind of guy. So
I remember when I went to Colombia for my buddy's bachelor party last year, and they had when you in Cartagena, when you walk on the street, when you step out on the street, and you're not, clearly not Colombian, you got a lot of people coming up in your face. They want to sell you something, and they kept on chanting Tom Cruise, Tom Cruise, just at us because we were the American guys.
Are you hitting the links this weekend? Well, guess what? The pros are. It's go time. We've got the final events of the year. We've got the playoffs. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler. I'm looking here at the FedEx St. Jude Championship 2024. Scotty Scheffler is the heavy favorite, plus 360. Xander Schauffele, plus 750. Rory McIlroy, plus 850 to win. From the first tee shot on Thursday through the final putt on Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. It's very easy to get involved. The app is fantastic to navigate. And as we've talked about before, if you pick a winner earlier in the week and it doesn't really work out, or they don't have a great first round, second round, you can always go in and say, hey, Saturday morning, I got a good feeling about this player. They're 4 strokes back, but they're plus 500 to win. I like it. Easy for first timers to get started. Just try betting on something simple like picking a golfer to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team or player, place your first bet. It's that simple. And if you're new to DraftKings, new customers, check this one out. Bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code FORE. That is code FORE for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Since you were dealing with your internet issues, Matt Kuchar has issued a statement.
Wow.
Or it was, I guess it was a post-round interview. I hope given to Kevin Price. I hope that Kevin Price was the only media person who showed up.
I wrote down.
Did you hear his quote? Did you hear when I read his tweet out loud?
No, but I'm glad you did because I put it in my notes too, and I put some of Pricey's tweets that Pricey was tweeting through the Kuchar situation, just right on the edge of like trolling, but also kind of like that's Pricey's wheelhouse. And I'm glad you put that in there because I noticed those as well.
He said, yeah, after 51 years ago today, Chichi Rodriguez won the Wyndham Championship on a Monday in a touching tribute. Anyways, okay. So Matt Kuchar, again, this is a quote. Again, it stings to nobody wants to be the guy that's showing up today, one person, one hole, not even one hole, half a hole to putt. So apologies to the tournament, to everyone that had to come back out. I know it stinks. I know the ramifications. I know it stinks. Certainly, I apologize to force everybody to come out here. So then why'd you do it?
Mm-hmm.
So then why, if you knew it was, I feel like at that point you have to not apologize. If you're gonna fall on the sword, and he fell on the sword. I talked about this too while you were gone. Max Greyserman saw him fall on the sword, and Max Greyserman just finished. So he made his point. I feel like at that point you got to be like, listen, I was standing up there in principle. I feel like we were asked to do something that wasn't. How can you then immediately apologize? You're admitting fault.
He's got to come out today and say, did you guys see that great par I made? Totally worth it. I'll see you next season. You know what I'm saying? He can't. Yeah, I agree with you. You can't be apologizing at this point. I want him to go full heel on the whole thing. But yeah, I'm surprised that he was even aware that people were like upset about it. You know, I'm surprised he didn't just march right off there being like, yeah, well, I mean, I just made a good par. See you later. I'm leaving town, you know, whatever. So, Pricey, dude. Pricey's great. Shout out to KP. That guy's our guy. People remember from the Corn Ferry Tour event last year. He was our Corn Ferry Tour insider, and he just lives and breathes this realm of the golf world a lot like Monday Q does, and just reports on it. And watching him report on the Kuchar situation, he had videos of Kuchar like driving from the range to the 18th fairway today to go play his half a hole, and he was crushing it out there. We got some from the galleries to get to, Dan. I don't know if you have anything else on the news front.
Yeah, just one thing. Luke Clanton, another guy to keep your eye on. There's 4 or 5 amateurs right now. Gordon Sargent, who's already got his PGA Tour card through PGA Tour U Accelerated, so he's just playing his senior year. I'd love to trade places with Gordon Sargent right now. Just get to play one more year with the boys at Vanderbilt, knowing the minute you turn pro, you're on the PGA Tour. There's a spot for you in the
insane that
Canadian
guy's
Open.
Not professional already. I feel like I've been hearing that name for years.
Yeah, he's actually not done super well in the majors that he's played in. I don't think he's made. I think he made one cut, maybe. Anyways, so it's him, Jackson Koiven, who was the guy who made the cut. He was a freshman, one player of the year, everything. Auburn. Speaking of Auburn, I believe we're going there next week. Brendan Jones and I, we got a new little video situation that I believe is happening. So stay tuned for that one. Jackson Koiven, he made the cut at the Memorial. That was a big deal. And then this guy, Luke Clanton from Florida State. It was him versus Neil Shipley for the low AM at the US Open. Remember on the last hole, Shipley, Clanton made a mess. Shipley won. Clanton has finished. He's played 5 events, I think, and he's got 3 top 10 finishes. He finished 10th, he finished 2nd, and he finished 5th last week. Solo 5th at the Wyndham Championship, which was not. I mean, it wasn't a great field, right? It wasn't a signature event, but there were still a lot of guys playing who want to move up in the rankings. You know, Sung J M was there, Shane Lowry was there, so there was some good players, and he finished solo 5th. So he doesn't get any like non-member points or anything like that, but he did get 3 more points toward the PGA-Tour Accelerated program. So just another guy to keep an eye on. 3 top 10s in 5 starts in the summer. This guy's never, and now he goes straight into the US Am. The US Amateur is this week, starting in Hazeltine in Minnesota. I believe the first round is right now because it's such a long week with 356 players. You know, they do 2 rounds of match play or 2 rounds of stroke play, and then they start the match play on Wednesday. So just a quick shout out to Luke Clanton. Also, he's done a little bit of YouTube golf. He was on, did some videos with Good. So kind of a cool guy that people should keep an eye on. Luke Clanton. Back to Florida State now.
Former Barstool Classic qualifier stop, Hazeltine.
Qualifier? You guys having qualifiers at major courses?
We did, we still kind of try to do this, but each year we try to have a couple, even just qualifier sites that were just a little bit elevated. You know, we've done like Aaron Hills has been a qualifier site. Obviously, the Hazeltine has been a qualifier site. We've had a couple
Gamble
more
Sands.
big ones. Gamble Sands, a big one that like everybody that goes to that one is like, holy shit, I'm just going to stay here for a week. This place is incredible. So we've always tried to do a couple, but we got Hazeltine the one year, and credit to them, we had a 5.5 hour rain delay in the morning, and they set up a chipping mat like on the patio, and I think it was to the 9th or 18th green that they let us do like closest to the pin contest during the rain delay. And then I think they had like 1 or 2 of their staff that were running out there, marking, like fixing ball marks right away, and then retrieving balls so that we obviously wouldn't damage the golf course. But then they opened it up, which I think ended up costing us a ton of money. But they opened it up for all kinds of hors d'oeuvres and like an open bar. And we kind of got through this like 5.5 hour rain delay at Hazeltine. So that was like the one time we were there. But that
and then finish the qualifier.
Finished the qualifier. It was like it was a photo finish. I think we ended up going. It might have been during the COVID year, so we were doing shotgun start, anyways, which I know we do at the qualifiers. But there was a stretch during COVID where we couldn't do shotgun starts because shotgun starts promote congregating together. And
so insane when we think about what the things that we did.
Insane to look back upon. But we literally, for like a couple of years at the Barstool Classic qualifiers, we went to straight tee times instead of shotgun start because we had to avoid like groups congregating. And I believe that year, even though it was like in the middle of it was either 2020 or 2021, that year they let us do shotgun start. So anyways, we ended up squeezing it in. But then afterwards, I think filmed like a little video of playing like a match or scrambles with a couple other guys that were in the field and going down by, I think for the majors, it's like that 16th hole. That's like shortish par 4 down by the lake is like such a cool little serene spot. So if the US Amateur coming down the stretch, will be very fun to watch. The old Y.E. Yang, Tiger Woods, battle down the stretch at Hazeltine. I'll never forget that one. But that's a very cool place. And we love Minnesota. Minnesota's a sneaky big Barstool stoolie town. There's a lot of stoolies up there.
I've never been to Minnesota. I take a golf trip, a yearly golf trip now with a bunch of Minnesota kids, kind of randomly. One of my good friends in New York, when I was playing golf there, was from Minnesota, and so he's got like 4 or 5 buddies that come, and then I've got a couple buddies who come, and they're always talking about Chaska, which is where Hazeltine is. So I would like to. Yeah, Lake Country is a beautiful, especially in the summer. You go up to Wisconsin, you go to Minnesota. It's not crazy hot. It's just like pure. And the grass grows really nice. It's green everywhere. So when you guys did the shotgun start, people were able to finish. No one pulled a Matt Kuchar and took their ball and
no home. Kuchar's not on my watch. Dan, I'd be like, yeah, fine. Yeah. You don't want to finish.
Come back next year. you know how like at least I've seen like whenever someone has like a 50-yard bunker shot now, it's like the Bryson shot. You're like, I'm gonna channel my Bryson here. I think Kuchar'S now, if it's getting late and the sun's starting to fade, I think I'm just gonna Kuch here. Yep, I think I'm just gonna. That's it for me, guys.
Don't be a cooch. Don't be a cooch. That's what people were going to hammer you with. But another great place up there, Windsong Farm, is where
Windsong. That's where these guys are members. That's where these guys are members. Yes.
Kyle Rudolph every year would do a big golf outing to raise money for a charity, and he. This is early days. It was like 2017, maybe, or 2018, maybe 2017, before we were even considering filming like golf videos, really. And I remember Dave was tight with Kyle Rudolph and was like, hey, I got invited to play in this scramble and I need you guys to come with me. So we all went up there as like, there was like celebrities and talent. And we ended up, each one of us got put with like a different group. And I ended up getting put with these guys that were like a bunch of, I think, local restaurant owners and big drinkers. And I'm telling you, every time we made a birdie, they're like, we got to do shot at whiskey. And it's a 4-person scramble with like each team got like a mulligan on each hole, and we were making a million. Things got pretty sloppy pretty quickly, but it was a fantastic time up there. Very cool course.
I did notice that with the Minnesota guys is they start drinking at 8 a.m., but not in like a showy way, not in like a let's start like pounding beers. It's just like, yeah, it's 8:30. Like let me grab a beer. Mm-hmm. I did notice that, and they can house them. I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, they could delete them pretty good. But a great time up there in Minnesota. We love Minnesota. If you're like me, you're constantly thinking about the safety of the people and the things that you value most. I was just down in lovely Pinehurst, North Carolina. Maybe my favorite thing in the world is the house that I was able to buy down there, and we protect it with SimpliSafe. I'm obviously not there all the time. We rent it out. We got people coming and going. SimpliSafe is incredible. I got this app on my phone. I can change the door code on the front at any moment. If I got some friends that are going to be in town, they want to swing by, stop by for a night, you can just change it. We've got, I think, 4 different cameras showing the back, the front, the garage, so we can monitor, keep an eye on everything throughout the entire time. We can talk to people. So if someone's at the front door, you can literally talk to them through these cameras. You can sleep better every night knowing that SimpliSafe's 24/7 monitoring agents are standing by to protect you. And if someone tries to break in, they'll send emergency help when you need it most. SimpliSafe just keeps getting better with exclusive live guard protection. SimpliSafe agents can act within 5 seconds of receiving your alarm and can even see and speak to intruders inside your home, warning them if police are on their way. The level of security and customer care has been incredible, so it's no surprise that SimpliSafe, they've been named Best Home Security Systems by U.S. News and World Report for 5 years running, and the best customer service in home security by Newsweek. Protect your home this summer with 20% off any new SimpliSafe system when you sign up for the Fast Protect monitoring. Just visit simplysafe.com/foreplay. That is simplysafe.com/foreplay. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. We're going to go to From the Gallery, fore-play at barstoolsports.com. Shoot us some emails. I've been noticing they've been coming in consistently, which helps, gives us nice stuff to talk about. So the more that you can put them in there, the better that we can kind of create content and discuss stuff on the show that you guys are curious about. Brett says, how much is too much to pay for a public golf course at this point? I travel a lot for work, so I'm always trying to find public courses that I can play wherever I can. I feel like public courses are getting out of control with their fees. What do you think? I will say real quickly, I know that back in that stretch, like I mentioned, like, let's call it 04 to like 2010, where my real eye-opening years of golf was like high school, college age. And over the summertime, we worked valet growing up. That was kind of our gig in the summertime. So you'd save up some money. And I remember like $80 was sort of like the number, where it's like, dude, if you played a golf course that was $80 or more, it better be Pebble fucking Beach. Like, it needed to be sick. And now St. Louis is definitely a little bit different in terms of price, not as expensive of a town as a lot of the other places I've lived since then. But now that number, I think, is only getting way, way, way higher. But it was like, we would find all kinds of deals growing up for like $25 to like $25 without a cart. You get up to like $40, $45, $50 with a cart that you could go out and spin around was like a pretty average public golf course experience. And I do
I feel
think
like
now
it's 200 now is the number if you're going to play
dude.
it's like if you're going to play like a good public course where the greens are in good shape and like the range is good, it's going to be at least $200.
Especially like in the couple places that like Arizona where I live now, and then like the North Carolina Sand Hills area where I go a lot. It's like you're going to pay at least high 100s or close to up to $300 a round to play like a really good public golf course. And then in Scottsdale, I feel, that whole area, all of like the greater Phoenix area, I feel terrible for people, especially in the wintertime, because I'll get a ton of emails and DMs. They're like, "Hey man, we're doing our bachelor party. We're doing our buddy's golf trip. We're going out to Arizona this winter. What's a good course that you recommend that's like under $130?" And I'm like, dude, they don't exist. Like it's at this point out there, they really just don't exist that much. And that's why I kind of like the locals out in Arizona this time of year love it, because you can get all kinds of great deals. And dude, I just played a couple rounds in North Carolina this past weekend. It was 87 or whatever it was versus 109 in Arizona, and it was infinitely more uncomfortable in North Carolina than it is in Arizona. And I know we harp on the dry heat, and occasionally we do get these monsoons where it's like actually kind of humid and 109, and that's insufferable. But this past weekend, dude, you're out there, there's like no wind, and you just feel like you're sitting in this soupy, swampy fucking mess. Your gloves are sliding off your goddamn hands. Cart path only all over the place, which is another thing I want to get into because a hurricane came through and they got like 10 inches of rain. So you're just sitting there, you're baking in the sun. It's like steamy, soupy from like all that's going on. You're running across the fairway. You got like 4 clubs in your hand and the rangefinder. You end up getting there, and it turns out it's 30 yards different than it looked like it was from the cart. So you're not really sure you have the right club. You just do that over and over and over again. You're like, dude, what in the literal fuck am I doing out here? So point being that like all the locals love the golf time this time of year in Arizona because everything is way, way, way more affordable. And we're just used to braving the heat. So it's really not that bad. DJ from Michigan says, "What is your opinion on going on a golf trip by yourself? Most of my golf buddies don't want to spend the money or don't like golf enough to go to a big resort and play some of the top courses. Would I look like a weirdo going as a single to a golf resort type place?" And then he goes, "Thanks. And if anyone needs a single for their trip, please get a hold of me."
That's good. That's good. That's a way to network.
I did this one time. I did this in, I think it was the end of 2017. I went to St. Andrews by myself, and it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. Now, I did have the benefit of, I talked about it on the podcast.
You're never by yourself. You're never by yourself because you can always tweet, "Oh, I'm at this bar," and then a million people will come by or people will see you. It's not the same.
Well, what I was going to say was like I ended up on the podcast. I talked about it, and there was one dude, this guy Matty, a Canadian guy, who reached out and was like, "Hey, man, I'm kind of in a similar boat, and you got me all hyped up, so I'm going to go over there too. And if you want to play any golf together, great. If you just want to get a beer together, great. If not, have fun. I just want to let you know." We ended up playing the old course together. We ended up playing a couple other rounds together. He's a super nice guy, and we've remained friends ever since. But even if I hadn't had that, the matchups that I had, a couple different rounds that where they just like pair you up, and then also just walking into like the Dunvegan there, or if you go to Bandon, if you just walk into the Bunker Bar, or if you go to Pinehurst and you go to the Deuce or go hang out by the Cradle, you're just going to meet people that are pretty like-minded like you are, and you'll probably make friends with golf folks, and you could just, they'll be like, "What are you doing here?" You'll be like, "I'll be honest with you, my friends don't really want to spend the money or do what I'm doing, and I wanted to, so I'm out here golfing by myself." And I guarantee you're going to meet people that are like, "Fuck yeah, let me buy you a beer and hang out."
My friend TJ, we've hung out with him before at your house before, the tennis guy. He does this. He's a big buy yourself guy. Yeah, no, I think if you're asking the question, you should do it. Right? Like, if you're at the point where you're like, "I think I want to do this," and it seems like your only obstacle is sort of the public reaction, just channel Matt Kuchar. Who fucking cares what the internet says? If you want to do it, then go ahead and do it. I think it's a badass move. I really do. And I have a lot of respect. Like a lot, you come across people who they're in between jobs or whatever, and they'll go by themselves to Asia for a couple of weeks and just kind of, bumming around. And I think that's a really admirable thing. If you're like comfortable enough with yourself and good enough at being alone that you can do that, I think you should 100% go for it. And if people think it's weird, then they're weird.
I agree. They are weird. Yeah, you're weirdos for thinking that he's weird. Matt from Chicago says, what do you guys think about adding long drive to the Olympics? There are a lot of strange sports in the Olympics. Breakdancing is what he wrote in there. And then he goes, it feels like long drive could have a place. I kind of talked about this before, and it's a fair point with like some events in the Olympics are really not that different than, like a long drive, where it's just kind of a pretty simple
3-on-3 basketball
competition. 3-on-3 basketball is very, very fun to watch. But my issue with long drive, as I've always said this, is that I just think an entertainment standpoint, it's not dynamic enough. It's just one thing. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's not even interesting watching a lot of like normal professional golf a lot of the time. And that's way more dynamic. They're hitting little chip shots. They're trying to flight, wedges in there. They're hitting out of the rough and trying to sip par. It's just one thing. They literally just stand there and try to just hit it as far as possible over and over and over and over and over again. And I there's a certain appeal. The clips go viral occasionally when somebody hits one 490 yards and it's awesome and they're all meted up. But like, I think when you can compare to like pure entertainment, all the different stuff that you can watch, whether it's reality TV or Netflix or documentaries or live sports, from football to soccer to golf, like I just think when you do tune in, it's just not dynamic enough. It's too like simple. You know what I mean?
Well, Bryson tried really hard to make it into a thing. Remember, that was like he I think it was before the US Open or after the US Open one year, he competed and he did pretty well. I think he finished like 7th or 8th. He put a lot of money into it. I think he really tried. You're right. It's just not it when it comes to a TV situation. It's one of those sports, sort of like shot put, where they're doing the same thing over and over again, and it's like you pull up the highlight, you're like the guy won, and you're like, well, that's kind of how I expected it to look. He did the thing, and but it just doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't translate.
And it's weird. Like I know the format can be different at different times, but like let's say I remember the time we did it, they got to hit like 8 drives right over the course of like however many minutes it was, but I think it was mostly like you get 8 tries, and then they would hit like 2 okay ones, and then like 4 out of play, and then 1 that goes like smoked it down the middle.
World champion.
So there's a lot of like randomness to it almost, where you're like, well, I mean that was. Okay, like it wasn't like it's building up to the only drama that's building up is like, is he going to get one in play here? And then he finally does, and it is like world champion or whatever. So again, it's incredibly impressive. Hitting the ball a mile is cool. Me and Trent, that was one of the first videos we ever filmed. We went to the World Long Drive in like Oklahoma, and it was really cool being there. Trent had one of the funniest clips I've ever seen where he smoked one. I think we were dressed exactly like Tiger Woods at the time in red mock necks and black pants. And he smoked one and then like threw his club down and started screaming as he chased after it on the long drive spot. So there's that part of it's a little hypey, but you got to kind of be there, and it's loud music and all that. But from a pure TV standpoint and like Olympics, I just don't think it's like dynamic enough. I think it's just too like straightforward. You just hit it as far as humanly possible. Matt from Chicago did say, additionally, if you could change the current golf format in the Olympics, how would you change it? And the reason I kind of also included this one is I think that this is an issue in golf that exists, that everybody knows exists, that nobody's been able to come up with a good solution for pretty much ever, which is that we all agree team golf is the coolest thing that we have. But what we don't agree on is that there's a good way to do it in a pretty consistent like basis that's similar enough to the normal format of golf, which is like people know golf tournaments. It's 4 rounds. It's Thursday through Friday, or it's Thursday through Sunday. And that's kind of how you determine a champion in all of golf's biggest events, with the exception of when it's one continent against another continent. I don't know how you get all kinds of teams and countries involved in a team effort, just like I don't know how Liv gets this mass appeal around the team aspect while also doing the individual aspect, because we've talked about it a lot. We like that they're building the franchises in Formula One, and team events are so goddamn fun in golf. And Xander Schauffele even being like, kind of happy that it was an American that won the gold medal is cool. It's the Olympics. It's very unique. I just think we've struggled forever to come up with a true format in golf that on like a relatively consistent basis delivers in any way close to the other team golf that we see.
Right. So I have a few thoughts on this. Number one, it's not really the Olympics, the IOC's problem, right? That like golf has, too many 72 all stroke play events. Like, it's one thing to say to the PGA Tour, you have too many, you administer 46 of the same thing. The Olympics, like we get one crack at it every 4 years. You think we're going to, do a 2-man scramble because there's too many John Deere classics of the world? Like, that's not their problem. That's number one. Number two, we're not messing with the Olympic competition that exists right now. If anything, would have to be added because that was so great.
Right.
It's got more momentum than it's ever had. There's only been 3, but to go after you have this incredible Sunday that seemed to elevate the event in real time and say we're going to change something. I don't think that's a good idea. If we could add something, which I would love to add, more golf the better. I think a 2-day men's women's mixed pair competition. There's mixed doubles in tennis, so do it in golf. You do 2 days, 36 holes, 1 day best ball, last day alternate shot. I think that would be really cool. I think people would really get into it. It's a question of logistics. Maybe you'd have to start the competition a few days earlier, and then maybe do the weekend is the competition and the women, whatever it would be. The logistics would be difficult, but I think if we were to add something, a mixed competition, 2 days, whether you do best ball both days or best ball 1 day alternate shot, whatever it might be, I think that would be really cool. But I'm not messing with the 72-hole stroke play event that produced one of the top 3 Sundays of the year.
Yeah, I think it's an additive thing as well. I think that the current one you got to keep, and then you get into the issue of the season's already long. The Olympics pretty much always come kind of in the middle-ish of the big part of the season, and now you're going to ask these players to stay over there for 2 weeks instead of just a week. I think that's going to be a tall ask, but I do kind of agree that dude, there's got to be a way to tap into how awesome team golf is and how the Olympics are really around, the biggest teams that there are, which is your country. And it's that's, people are playing individually, but for, a medal for their country, but it's they want to win that thing individually, which is cool. Gymnastics kind of pulls it off in a way, but it's, it's where obviously the team competition's huge, but they're also out there doing individual events to contribute to it. So I don't know the exact format. It's a very difficult question to answer, and that's why I kind of set through different team events. We've always battled to kind of answer it. But if they could figure that out, that might be something that other events could repeat as well. Because look, the Zurich Classic is the only team event that we have on the PGA Tour, and it doesn't really deliver the juice, right? It's it just doesn't. I get it's nice.
Well, it's because no one plays. It's not a signature event. It doesn't. Some of the guys play, but even if they do, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't feel. You need to have that extra little. But I think the country stuff. If it was one team per country too, that would be pretty cool. If it was Scotty and Nelly and that's it. You get one team.
Right. I think that would be great. And you're right. The Ryder Cup delivers because there's a lot of real history there. We've all gone to war with each other many times over the years. And it's now here we are playing a golf match, and it's it's your culture against ours. It's we flew across the fucking pond and we're coming in here for war. We're trying to get a win. And it's and then you go down to the Zurich and it's me and Max paired up. We kind of saw each other on the range a couple weeks, and it's and it's
who
great.
Who asked who?
I like that they're trying to do something different. We've always said that about the Zurich. They kind of have to. And Rory with Shane Lowry was really, really cool. The two of them were so into it. For a very average event that's just on the schedule, to see how into it Rory was because Shane Lowry was that into it was really, really cool. So I do think it elevated it, but there's got to be some sort of different format, and especially for the Olympics. Like you said, a 2-day event, right, where each team gets one team of 2 players, mixed team event or something, could maybe deliver. But I would like to see them tap into the team aspect. I just don't know how the hell you do it.
Yeah.
Tracker, our boy fore-play Tracker, who submits a lot from the galleries, is one might imagine. He submitted, he said, what is the easiest age to shoot? What is the easiest age to shoot your age?
Oh, that's a good question. Obviously, it depends on the standard of your play, but I would say probably high 70s.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too.
It depends on. So I'm having this with my dad, where my dad literally cannot carry the ball more than 190 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He just can't, and he refuses to. I've finally convinced him to move up 1 tee, but he really should be playing maybe not the front tees, but one behind that. And so I think that's a big part of it. If you're a lifelong 6 handicap or 5 handicap, there are tees that you can move up to and you can continue to, your handicap won't be the same, but you can still shoot 78. And that's the thing is I'm trying to tell my dad, I'm go shoot 77 and 78. He's well, but no one is going to ask what the difference was on the gin.
No. Nope.
Just go shoot the number that you're getting up there in age. No one cares. So if you follow the protocols and you're assuming if you're ever going to shoot your age, you have to be a good golfer. So I would say probably like a tee appropriate 76-year-old would be my guess. 77-year-old.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 77, and you're playing the green tees. Maybe it's 5,800 yards, 5,700 yards.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get my dad to do. 5,800.
Because I think once you're over 70, maybe 72, 73 at this point, like people are gonna let you play from wherever the fuck you want to play from, or just literally wherever you're in your 70s. You can do whatever you want at that point. That's like even allowed on the road. I think when you're that old, you can just drive however you want. So I think in golf at that point, you play from wherever you want. And I think that's about right. I think you can kind of putz it around out there from 5,800 yards as a 77-year-old dude. And you could go out there and post a nice, smooth, like 3 or 4 over 75 and get that thing home. I think once you get into the 80s, you're just old and like, and then unless you're a really, really good player, like really good players are going to be in that wheelhouse maybe of like high 60s, low 70s. But if you're pretty like average, okay player who plays a lot, like a mid, high single digit golfer, I think that's your wheelhouse, like 77, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, I'm agreed. We're in agreement there.
And the last thing, I know I kind of touched on it earlier, but I think we failed just in golf in general in not coming up with a better solution for cart path only at this point. And I think that
is that what's happening at the Classic today?
I don't know if we're going to have it at the Classic today. We might not, but we had it, of course, most of this last weekend because of how much rain there is. And the obvious solution is that you just walk. But there's a lot of courses that are designed with how far you have to drive from green to tee and whatnot, that walking's not really feasible. Like it's a cart. There's cart only golf courses that we definitely play. And I'm with all the superintendents. When it's really wet, you simply can't have carts off the path. The fact that we don't have some feasible golf hoverboard or something along those lines that gets people around. Golf has like maybe per capita, like the highest income people of any sport in the world. And it's like with all the innovation out there and how many incredibly rich, successful people just play golf for the rest of their life. That's pretty much what you do. That's why Arizona exists. That's why Florida exists. That's why Pinehurst exists. People literally retire. They're pretty successful. And for the next like 20, 30 years of their life, they just play golf all the time. And we got to come up with a solution. It's insufferable. It makes the experience so much worse. It's such a grind. You end up walking more than you actually would if you just walked, which a lot of people know. It's way slower, right? Everybody knows that. It's like to drive up, you feel like you're parallel with your ball, but then your partner's ball is in a different parallel spot. So which spot do you park at? You try to park equidistant. One guy runs back. He's farther away. He's trying to get the rangefinder. You add that up over 18 holes. There's just no really good way to play quickly with cart path only. And I'm just surprised that it's like, okay, we've played this outdoor sport for hundreds of years now. Carts are a huge part of it. We've got all this incredible technology. But like when it rains, which it does all the time, this is planet Earth, rains all the fucking time. When it rains, we just like don't have an option other than to have a shitty experience.
I'm looking at the Grove 23, Michael Jordan's course. I'm looking squarely in your direction right now. I feel like you guys are really at the cutting edge of kind of, golf innovations. Let's see something. Just throw us a little, little Jumpman 23 branded hoverboard. I think you guys have an opportunity here.
Or like an ultra lightweight cart. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but it's like I'm surprised somebody hasn't put their brain power combined with substantial resources that exist in the world of golf to figuring out that problem, because it really is like everyone groans, right? When you're like the marsh, like, oh, we are cart path only today. Everyone's like, oh boy, this is just going to be an absolute grind and a battle. And sure enough, it is. You're just exhausted. It's just, there's no flow to it, right? You're always sort of out of sorts a little bit. You're dropping clubs on the ground. You're leaving shit out there. You're dropping something on the cart path because you got too many things in your hand. It's just a little bit of chaos, and I'm surprised at this point in the world of golf that we haven't come up with a better solution. All protein bars generally taste the same, but not One bars. One made protein bars actually delicious. This is true. With Reese's and Hershey's, these things are awesome. We got these over the last couple months. Keep them around the house whenever I'm home. It's a delightful snack. It's got protein, which we want. 18 grams of protein, only 3 grams of sugar, and they're delicious. Only one Reese's Peanut Butter Lovers protein bar is made with Reese's peanut butter. That is only one. This is the one and only one. Hershey's CNC protein bar is actually made with Hershey's cookie bits. That is the one bars that we're talking about right now. One also has other delicious flavors. They got birthday cake, maple glazed donut, and blueberry cobbler. Again, 18 grams of protein, which is a lot, only 3 grams of sugar. So these bad boys are going to deliver. They're delicious. Try new one Reese's Peanut Butter Lovers protein bar and one Hershey's Cookies and Cream. Now, go check them out. Trust me. Again, try the new one Reese's Peanut Butter Lovers protein bar and one Hershey's Cookie and Cream. All right. I know we had a little bit of technical issues there, everybody.
I'm proud of us, and I'm proud of you for clearing your cache. That was not an easy decision, but it made all the difference in the end.
The clear cache, I was on the Marriott troubleshooting internet website trying to grind through options. I was on a hotline at one point, and then the other, I was trying to prompt, the page when you get to like a hotel and then you select the Wi-Fi and the page pops up and it gives you like the different options. I couldn't get back to that page. I couldn't get back to that page. I got to the page once. I thought I did the premium. The front desk lady on the phone was like, "Have you tried the premium?" And I was like, "I'm pretty sure I got the premium." She's like, "You should really make sure you have it." Okay. Then I couldn't get back to the select premium page. I couldn't get back to it. So then I was like, forget network, expecting it to prompt me, and it wouldn't prompt me. So that's why I ended up on the website. And then the website was like, if all else fails, try clearing your caches, which I was hitting everybody. I was like, fine, I'll clear caches. Well, like I said at the beginning, it worked out. I'm glad it did. But that turned out to be a very time-costly mistake going forward because I'm not going to be able to get into anything. I can't get into my Twitter. I don't know what any of my passwords are. I can't get into anything on my fucking computer at this point. I can't get into the fore-play email to try to find emails about from the gallery. I can't get into anything, and my caches have been cleared. So that's going to take months to recover the status that I was in.
Well, we appreciate your sacrifice.
Where you just
and the listeners appreciate your sacrifice.
And you're just in everything. I'm never going to be in everything ever again. Like it took years to get to that point, and now I'm just locked out of everything.
Yeah, but now you have a free evening. So there's just trade-offs in life.
Huge. Barstool Classic, TBC Boston, Monday and Tuesday. It's nice to be back in Boston, doing some filming later in the week, and then kind of hanging in Boston for the weekend. And then we're going up to good old Rochester, Gravy Boy there, if he wants to say hello. We're going to Gravy Boy's hometown, his neck of the woods.
So excited.
We're going to do some eating. We're going to do some hanging out. And then Gravy Boy's playing in the Classic, right? Is that right?
Gravy Boy's crazy. Yeah.
Young Gravy.
I'm playing with my dad. Young Gravy.
You're playing with your father.
Yep. Wow. It'll be good.
Have you been playing? Have you been practicing at all?
Negative. I have... We'll see where I am. I'm playing Oak Hill the day before. We'll see how that goes. And then my dad's been playing a lot now, so hopefully he's got a backpack. So
it's going to be your dad. Yeah, your dad is the fucking mayor of Rochester. Yeah, the mayor. And he's going to shoot 60. He's going to shoot 67 if I know what's right in the world.
That guy's just the mayor, baby. That guy is a legend. I'm excited to see him. But yeah, we got a big couple weeks coming up here. So thank you everybody for listening. Matt Kuchar situation. I love that.
Wait, I have an update for you guys that you'll laugh at. I was texting with Kevin Price about everything, and he just goes, I'm still buzzing about the fever dream that is a gift from the content gods.
He's so
just
fired
my
up,
favorite
dude.
human alive.
He's so fired up.
Yeah, that's a story of the year for our boy Price. That's just the story of the year. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsors. We'll be back on Thursday. Hit it hard.
Hit it hard.